of a parachute, some of my most beautiful memories. Then I
So
had to
from
work with,
outreach,
yeah,
you became general
general
secretary
secretary.
under whose leadership?
Under Boyga
Okay.
Ogunubi, who happened to be, that's another place where, so most of my skills in my administrative skills were actually formed working with him.
Mm.
You can't work as a secretary and be lazing around. We're literally doing everything, like from office. Like he would come into the office and we would literally work in the office while every other person has gone home. Be working on the office on documents, on letters, and all of that. So I was doing a whole lot working with him. You know, I mean, I hope I'm going to be able to share some stories about my relationship and work with him,
Yeah.
because it was at the stage of working with him that a couple of dealings with the Holy Spirit started to come in. You know, so after working as general secretary, I moved on to being, all of them being central executive roles. You know, so after working with Boyga Ognubi, I moved on to um, working with Chibuzo Okeje as Bible study secretary.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
So
one would expect you. I mean, you have a very interesting trajectory. One would expect outreach general secretary. Probably the next thing should be deputy coordinator male, and
yeah,
then you accepted to do Bible study secretary.
yeah.
You know, how did that? How was that transition for you?
So the reality is, like everyone, whenever people felt that when I was general secretary, when I was outreach secretary, I should possibly have been general secretary.
Oh yeah.
So that's the way it has always been. So people always felt that way, that they felt like I should have been maybe general secretary. At this point, I should be something higher. But the reality is that God does take us through all of these things to groom us for what we are later going to do in life. So it's not necessarily about the title, but
I, I,
basically,
just before we go on a break, I would like you to pause a little bit and let's expound on this, because I have a problem with the present or the succeeding generation not understanding that whatever they are doing right now, that God is demanding of them to do in executive position right now, it's a foretaste, it's a training,
mm-hmm,
is a training in the area of their skill, in the area of their consecration, in the area of their character for something very major in the future that
mm-hmm,
God is planning for them.
mm-hmm,
And if they disqualify, if they mess up that opportunity right now because probably nobody is paying them for me. This is
mm-hmm,
voluntary service.
mm-hmm,
Nobody is paying you any financial remuneration for it. So a lot of people can decide to just handle it in a very complacent and complicit manner. But meanwhile, you are disqualifying yourself from something very strategic and major that God wants to do with your life in the future. So it's that point that I wanted to
completely
expatiate a bit.
agree. And
No, no.
I do have a lot to
Because
say about that.
some people will feel like that's a demotion. I mean, general secretary, right, came to Bible study. But meanwhile, God was taking you through all of these offices,
Mm-hmm,
bringing into you and forming into you certain skills and proficiency
mm-hmm,
in administration, in your area of ministry,
mm-hmm,
preparing you for great tasks that you're going to do in the future.
mm-hmm.
Is that not true?
Absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Do I go
So
on?
share a thought on it. We'll go on
Okay,
break.
so um, I'm strong on leadership. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm leading up to like 5 teams together at the same time. I don't look like it's killing me. Nobody feels like I'm not delivering on my responsibilities. So I'd learned multitasking as a result of being exposed to opportunities to lead in different capacities, and at
Yeah.
the same time being open. At some point in parachute, I was in literally all units and departments except for the technical and possibly the ushering. Just those two. The rest of them, I was involved in everything at the same time. So these things were helping to develop the leadership skill set within me. Then at the same time, my entrepreneurial nature as well, being involved in outreach is like having to sell a product, especially a product that people would despise. Like I also despised it. So I learned that art of literally learning to sell products to people, especially good products. So right now, I'm involved in selling products, and when I do tell people about what I do, some people will be like, "Ah, this guy, you're a marketer." In reality, it's my passion. I want you to have this because it's good. That passion was developed while being outreach secretary. Then a lot of administrative responsibilities I have. I don't have problem with writing anything. Call me up in the night, ask me to take minutes of anywhere. I can take minutes of anywhere. I can speak anywhere. Like I can speak anywhere.
I know that.
Like like let there be all presidents here. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I've come to become natural, expressing myself around people, irrespective of whether they are high class, middle class, low class. I enjoy it. Now, all of these trainings, I will be very honest with you, was basically from the parachute.
Right.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Fantastic. All right. So we're still on my parachute story, and we're talking with Mr. Adeola Adebayo, the chief strategist and many office holder in the parachute story. We're going to go on a break, and we'll be right back. We have more things to still talk about. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Looking for the best way to start your day? Are you having a rough day at work? Or you're just stuck in traffic? If you have a smartphone, then you're in luck, because we are here to refresh you. Open your browser and type www.digits1024radio.com. Then hit the play button. You can also download the app to get the best online radio experience. So allow us to motivate, inspire, and educate you. Tune in to Digits 1024 Radio, your refreshing radio.
Digits 1024 Radio app is now on Google Play Store. All you need to do is go to Google Play Store, type Digits 1024 Radio and download the app for free. You have no excuse to miss out on this amazing offer. Digits 1024 Radio, your refreshing radio. Woohoo!
Okay. Right, welcome back from the break. We are still on to the Untold story, and today we are talking with Mr. Adeola Adebayo, the chief strategist of diversity, a man of many expressions, a man who's gone through the ropes, a man who began his faith journey in the Church of Pentecost, rose through the ranks to serve in almost all the offices. Someone who is very passionate, and it's been joy having him around. So let's talk about I know that one of your greatest sense of friendship, covenant friendship, is located in this house. Let's talk about the people that God brought you in contact with, in partnership with, that has formed the base, that have become lifelong friends, covenant friends, partners. Hopefully, maybe from this house, the madam who's of that was just by the way. All right, let's talk about your friendship. Those great guys, as much as you can remember.
Well,
what formed?
So I won't miss out on anyone. I'll talk about the top two, male and female.
Okay.
So I also learned inclusion from parachute as well.
Yeah.
Like the idea of always, if you're going to select a woman, you also select a man. If you're going to select a man to do something, you also select a woman. So I'll start with the first, Olufemi Yusuf. Yeah. So, I mean, we go a long way in the sense that when I joined the parachute, it was my first contact with, especially in freely expressing myself. I'm a very expressive person. So I like to be around people who can allow me to be myself. Olufemi Yusuf has done a great job with respect to that. So
definitely,
the reality is he knows me. If there's anybody who you could pick on and say, who knows this guy very well, he does know me very well.
Right.
And right now, like I mentioned earlier on, my friendship with himself and his family, his wife, who is also should also be my bosom friend.
He
Yeah.
handed over to you as the coordinator.
Yes, he did. So she's also my bosom friend, but I mean his wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean we're childhood friends as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our parents were in same society. Childhood friends. June. I'm born in June. She's also born in June.
Great.
So himself apparently is like the top of my bosom friends there. Not to sound a little bit partial in any way, I won't talk in details, but I do have hundreds, like hundreds. So I mean, if I don't mention your name, just know that you're really appreciated by me, and I don't joke with my friendships. We talk as often as we can. Then the second person would be, you should know. Berbega would definitely know. You should know.
That's our friend in the US.
Oh yeah, what's the name?
Chibuzo.
Absolute.
I got it.
So nobody can miss that.
Okay.
So these are people these are Chibuzo Inigwe is the like the female. Both of them I refer to them as best friends. So I have more than 2 besties actually.
Yeah.
Male, female. I have more than 2. I have a good number of them. People that I can literally, we talk any time of the day. They call me any time of the day. I can call them any time of the day. So Chibuzo Inigwe started really, really quite young. And when you have female friendships who literally act like male friendships in the sense that they are as close to you as your male friends. That's how Chibuzo Inigwe is. I mean, to let you know how close we are, I'm one of the first people that knows whenever she's in the country.
Yeah, give it up to you.
Literally, she showed up one day, shockingly in my house. Nobody knew that she was in Nigeria. And the very first place she was going to turn up, I mean, I don't know if it was the first place, but maybe Paris. Very first place was my house. And immediately just showed up at the gate. I was like, "What?" I just started screaming, like, how did you do this? How did you? So we have that kind of friendship where my friends,
she didn't serve with you?
No. Okay, so my experience of serving with Chibuzo Inigwe is quite unique. She was never an executive in Parachute. Yeah. But Chibuzo Inigwe, so I started Communique. Yeah, I was the one the house called. Then I had a writing. I still have a writing skill. They just looked at, and this guy is very good in writing. So they just called me, let's start up a writing group in church. And that was the way. She was actually the one that named.
Communique. Which year was that? Which year was it named? This that? You won't know.
It was during. It was Double Chi was. What was Double Chi's role? Double Chi was actively involved anyway. He was actively involved. It was the one who literally was the executive figure that. It was. It was the general secretary was. It was Mr. Femi Olushola's tenure. It was Jonathan, who was general secretary when I was called to be responsible for the board. So the development went on. Chibuzo Inigwe was she was the one who christened Communique. Yeah, because we had a meeting where we all discussed together.
That's news to me, man.
And then we all brought out names, and then she brought the name Communique.
So when Communique is writing your history, when you are doing your gist, I mean, that particular unit is phenomenal right now, and they're doing great things. You need to come to Parachute Church Chapel, actually, and see what the creativity, the innovation. Meanwhile, it was just a crystal idea at this point. Fantastic.
Funny enough, the figures that were there were involved, were key figures. Wando Osaka too was also involved.
Great.
The first notice board we had outside, it used to be one glass board somewhere there.
Yeah.
We all sat down together. Young people, then we didn't really have a pause as we do now, where you could just request and the executives look into the request and just grant the request. Then we funded everything from our pocket. So it wasn't just service to the people. It was also using your resources to fund everything. So then Wando Osaka and every other person, I just give a call then and let's contribute towards getting a notice board. And that was the way everyone came up with. I can't forget that moment because I had to write it down in one of my diaries. I thought I was going to give 100 naira then. Imagine what 100 naira would do now to get a notice board ready. But the reality then was that I thought it was big. And then when I was opening the envelopes, I just saw one of the biggest, in fact, the biggest then. I think it was about 4,000 naira. and it was
Wow.
from one of us. 4,000 naira then,
Yeah,
trust
I
me,
can imagine.
is close to 20,000 naira now,
If not more.
if not more.
Yeah.
And then this person was just doing her NYSC. I wouldn't call names so that I protect her gift and her commitment. She just brought out the money. We all gathered the money together. They all passed it to me, and then we opened it. And then hers was like the biggest. Every other person 100, 200, maybe 500, 100, 200, 500, 100, maybe 100, 200 itself. But hers came in a big envelope, and that was it. So, like
Fantastic.
I said, Chibuzo Unigwe, very, very awesome friend of mine. Like,
Yeah, just to let you know that in this house, there's been a lot of very secret, anonymous, heavy givings
really,
going on behind, and it's still going on today. People
Really?
who will anonymously, secretly continue to give their seed and give their support to see the house become what it is today.
yeah.
I want to ask you a very clear question. Over the years, I've seen that in every tenure, there's always the inner caucus. Some people call them some people they call them the Fantastic Five. Some people call them the trio. There's always that core group, the Peter, James, and John. You know, in your tenure, did you have any core group? Did you have your think tank? Did you have any when you were coordinator? That's what I mean. Now, did you have your Fantastic Five? Did you have who were your hitmen? Who were the people that you have that secret rapport with when you want to take very sensitive, difficult decisions? The people who make things happen within your executive. Because almost every tenure had it.
I would say I didn't actually.
You didn't.
People felt I did. Even people that I interacted
some
with.
people would disagree
even,
with you.
Yeah, some people would disagree with me.
Yeah.
Even the people.
Yeah.
Some people feel like they were my Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay.
But the funny thing is, so Parachute has a system. We have general executives.
Yeah.
We have central executives.
Yeah.
And then we have the coordinators, in quotes. Then we also have the secretariat.
Yeah.
So in the system already makes provision for people who should be higher decision makers. So personally, I didn't go beyond that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I didn't go beyond that. I can't. So central decision made when central made a decision on the general executive, it was as though heaven made the decision. Honestly. And one of us was there. Allah Fagbemi was there. Like while we're still deliberating about it, she was there and she wrote out the list of the entire general executives who were going to join us. And then after the meeting, when we are taking the decisions independently, not knowing that she also was writing something down, when we are taking the decision, she brought out her list. Our list was perfect. The current general executives we had was perfect. So I always believe, personally, I believe in getting everybody's input in whatever we do. And so possibly that's the reason why there were a couple of conflicts, in my tenure. Because I would allow a general executive, currently that is still my approach. I'll allow a general executive interact with me as though I'm not the coordinator, because we are all executives. So I had an issue initially when it comes to relating with people as subordinates. So personally, becoming coordinator was something I felt I also needed to defeat. In my executive, one of the closest to me was a Pereka. People used to think anytime.
I was an executive.
Yes.
In your tenure.
Yes, that was. She was the assistant library head. That was her first tenure.
Katu has come a long way.
That was her first
girl.
tenure.
Since
I'm
that time, we've been
almost too proud of her. Always too proud of her.
Yeah.
The day I realized, like when I serve with people, I, as much as my personality always looks intimidating, I appear very bold, that some people feel like it's pride.
Yeah.
As much as that exists, I always want people to grow up to occupy whatever role I've ever occupied. For Ekperika, the day I heard that she didn't mind becoming coordinator, I was like, my God, that's my daughter, or that's my baby. Then in the executive, there's something the executive used to say, Ekperi Baba, because she could come. I've never for once gotten angry with her. And it wasn't like there was any.
Guy is a jolly good fellow.
It wasn't like there was any emotional intentions between both of us. Nothing like that. But we just had this fondness for ourselves, and she's one of the people that I could also call a bosom friend. So in her case, I didn't take as much as she was that close to me, she was not the person that would call and say, let's take a decision that would be binding on the house. She was the assistant library head. I wouldn't do that. So if I was going to take any decision that was going to be binding, and I couldn't take that decision at the general house, I have my coordinators. In my absence, Adimakin would sit in my stead. Even though before he became coordinator, it was always a struggle.
I know.
Always a
There's
struggle.
a couple of more things we need to talk
Yeah.
about. Let's talk about our parish youth and its programs. It's the youth weeks, the milestone programs, the pattern programs, and what they shaped out of us as leaders. So let's talk about our founders' memories, messages you will never forget in the parish youth that struck a chord and is still striking a chord. You know, programs, encounters within the time you've been within the system that just continues to ring a bell, and you think that this is the signature, this was continuing to be the signature of this house.
Let's start with our fast.
You used to have deadly
You
fast.
can't be in the house of parish youth and not learn to fast.
You go fast.
You will fast.
And
And it hasn't changed till date. A particular generation came with 1 month.
kudos to Chibuzo Unsofo, the master of fasting and prayer. He began that move, those 3 days dry fast and all that. My goodness, talk about fast.
So let me talk about my own experience.
So
on
every
the
youth
fast.
week now it becomes
It's a tradition. You must fast. And we see the results.
Yeah.
We see God at work. We know that there is God and He rewards prayers.
Exactly.
So while my first experience with parish youth fast was likely my first experience
In
fasting.
Which one? How long was it?
Femi Olushola, when they would tell us that you just have to take only milk and water.
You are even supposed to take milk, we try.
Yeah. So at that point, while I'm at home, because you're also expected to pray, while at home, then one of us came to the house and he said, do you know people have died while they were fasting? I won't forget. I've had crazier fasts because now I've learned a different form of fasting from Dr. Miles Monroe. So I've had crazier fasts with learning from Dr. Miles Monroe. But with the House of Parish Youth, then someone would come to my house and be like, do you know people had died in the business of fasting? That there was one guy, he went to fast. And the person would say that to me literally when we're fasting.
And you were like, I hope I don't get.
I hope I don't die too, But the reality is that those fasts had built me because I didn't break the fast irrespective of what the person said. Now, the fast of parish youth is beautiful. Then, our T-shirts. So I joined in our youth week T-shirts. I joined in. Yes, I'm wearing the one for this year. I wore it here deliberately. So you can't compare our first youth week T-shirt with our current youth week T-shirts. That's to let you know we've grown as a house to not just be spiritual, but to be skillful.
Yeah.
At some point, our T-shirts used to be things that you could just wear indoors. Now we ship our T-shirts outside of the country. We ship our T-shirts outside of the country. I also produce too. And a couple of my T-shirts went outside of Nigeria. People deliberately bought them for people outside Nigeria. They felt trendy with it. So we have a couple of, there are several things. Our music. Word, our music, We in the House of Parish Youth, while I was coordinator, we had our first album. Complete album. Recorded, studio recorded, had our first movie, recorded, everything done in-house. I was deliberate, while I was coordinator as well, I have some certain value systems in the sense that if you are going to operate a system, there are people within that system. That's why I'm also an ecosystem builder. People within that system who have the capacity to do those things. Don't go outside. So we never went outside. Our music, everything done within. The producer within. And these guys are doing well in music today.
Great.
You talk of a house who is spiritual, but you also talk of a house who is ready to learn the skill set that would make their spirituality make sense. And that's the House of Parish Youth.
Great.
You need to see the cards we produced they were just ATM cards. The cards we produced for the Breakout Project. ATM cards. Almost better than the current ATM cards you have today. That's the
Because
house
I
of
saw that
parachutes.
card too. So unfortunately, I wish you had 2 hour session for your because I still need to catch up. So let's quickly
Honestly,
capture
I also want to say
the,
some more
the,
things.
the, the, the sacrifices, the challenges, the difficulties, because in leading in this house, one of the core values, one of the core things that a leader must embrace is the cross, is self-denial, is that you will have challenges, persecution. Let's walk ourselves through all those experiences of what you have had to and what the average leader will go through in leadership in parish youth. From the home front, from the church, from friends, what are the challenges, the difficulties you can pick. We have a very short time, I have less than 5 minutes thereabout. Let's see how
So
we can wrap
I
it.
really love this part because this is where the training is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, for one, that I had a very, very good experience with that. Like, good experience. So at some point in my service, almost every tenure, I felt like quitting, and I wrote my letters. I came here with some letters. I won't be able to open them up, but I came with.
I like to read this.
I I wasn't able to. I'll
Pick
pick one of those letters. I'll pick one of those
You
letters.
wrote your resignation letter. And
The resignation letters are not here. I wrote 2 resignation letters while I was serving under Brogbega. Yes, I wrote a resignation
pressure
letter.
was too much.
Meanwhile, that was the tenure that I was groomed the most. Really. So I did write a couple of resignation letters, and the reality is that journey of writing resignation, because none of them ever saw it. None of the coordinators ever saw it.
You never presented.
I never presented. I was just pressured to the point I felt like there's pressure at home, there's pressure with school, there's pressure in church. I just felt like, listen, you just need to hand over this thing. You just need you need to get your life.
Like,
Because your entire life
I
was.
don't have a life.
And honestly, if you wanted to find out my life within the 15 plus years I served in leadership, it was just parachute.
Wow.
Education, business. I was prioritizing it over everything.
Wow.
So reality is
What
for
a
me.
sacrifice.
Reality is for me that these were my training periods. Now, you can't frustrate me out of any leadership. It's not possible. Like, that is me telling you. I've mixed with and mingled with all kinds of people. There were people who conspired against me. I started a group. People who conspired against me. So they literally came back and asked me to step down. I would have called it a tribal issue. Very, very depressing moments for me. But you know what? I stood still. They never knew where I was coming from. I was coming from a place where I realized that leadership is it's not just about what you are feeling. You are feeling bad, you're not feeling good. You are feeling high, you're not feeling high. It's about the fact that there's something that needs to be done. And if you are not there, it won't be done. Honestly, these are things that form my record. I've been involved in lives. I've been involved in projects. It brings me fulfillment. I look back and I see these people, and I'm so glad. One thing I want to say is, at one of my toughest moments